The Nets have a 22% chance to win the title. The only team with better odds as of this point are the Jazz with 24.5%. But let's talk about the Jazz, shall we? Because these West Coast games are killing my sleep schedule, but they're so good that you kind of have to stay up for them. Last night was that case, an overtime thriller between the top two seeds in the West. The Suns besting the Jazz 117-113, and it was Devin Booker's 7 points in the extra period that made the difference. He had 35 points. Meanwhile, Donovan Mitchell finished with 41. Okay, Chiney, who is the better player right now? Is it Devin Booker or is it Donovan Mitchell?
I can save you, Charlie. You need sleep. Come to the West Coast. The games start.
I would love to. When do I get the invite? You and Stephen A. on the West Coast having a good time. You leave me here in New York.
I know. We got you, girl. You're my girl. So, of course, I always got a room for you out here. But, you know, watching these games were great. We finally had an NBA night that we really deserved and are excited as we build momentum towards the playoffs. And now, both Donovan Mitchell and Devin Booker, I feel like they knew that we were going to do this. I feel like they knew that we were going to debate this performance because they both showed out. Both guys shot the ball over 30 times. Both are two-time All-Stars. Both are 24-ish years old. And right now, I think it's really easy to argue that the Phoenix Suns are surging. It's apparent. And a lot of that is due to Chris Paul's leadership. And look, Devin Booker, do not mince my words. Devin Booker is a bucket. But from a team perspective, I know that they just took a loss, but the Utah Jazz have been the real deal this entire season. And the more complete player right now, probably because he has to carry that role, is Donovan Mitchell, just because he's a combination of everything you need right now in the NBA: scoring, moving the ball as a point guard. I mean, his athleticism, one of the most athletic players in the league under the rim, but then obviously he can dunk over the rim, working to become a better defender. The Utah Jazz are the only team, I believe, that's been top 5 in both offensive and defensive rating this entire season. And that'll shock a lot of people. And I'll say this, it really moved me in a different direction when Steve Kerr played them a while back and said, hey, this team, the Utah Jazz, reminds me of my team a couple years ago, talking about the Warriors, how they got it done as a team defensively from that perspective, but then also just the amount of threes. I think they lead the NBA in made threes. So overall, this is a solid team. Donovan Mitchell is a complete player, and I think that's why you're seeing them atop of the NBA in the standings.
Yes, using the word better makes it tough because you have to define when you want them, how you're evaluating them. So when I talk to a couple of scouts about this question, they say, look, on a night in April, do I think that Donovan Mitchell is maybe better to have a chance to win? Yeah. But what about in a playoff series? And the thing that scouts like about Booker versus Mitchell is he's just bigger. He's 6'5", 6'6", and that makes it a little bit easier for him to create his own shot. Donovan is spectacular with his footwork, and he's developed his three-point shot. In fact, Donovan actually shoots the three quite a few percentage points better than Booker does, which I don't think any of us would have expected 2 years ago. But in the end of playoff games, when you need to get that shot creation, Donovan has to work so hard. Now, granted, he has shown he can work hard and deliver it, but Booker's size and his little bit more flexibility on defense, I think might give him a little bit of an edge. But boy, I'm nervous saying that because I saw how Donovan played in the playoffs last year. He put together a couple of stunning performances, and I feel like he's got more of that in the future. And, you know, he's got some more playoff experience than Booker has. That's the big thing about the Suns. That's why Chris Paul is so big for them. None of their core players outside Chris Paul and Jay Crowder have stepped on a playoff basketball court yet. And so that's going to be a really important thing. How does Booker handle that postseason pressure? Because he's got the package to be a guy who can win a team a playoff series.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because when you compare these two players, they have different strengths, but both are at very similar points in their career with opportunities to prove themselves, Brian. Now, of course, when it comes to the final shot, we all know most people will want to see Devin Booker with that. We saw that in the bubble with their run that has carried over to this season. But one thing I will say about Donovan is that the weight that he's had to carry, he's had to lead this team offensively as the primary go-to, and he's been forced to improve his game, as you mentioned, with the three-point shot. He has taken that next step forward from last year to this year in a way that Devin Booker, playing with Chris Paul, sort of has the luxury of being able to, spot up and shoot, and now they have their own playoff run. It's been fun. I think it's tough to compare both. They have very different strengths, but overall, both guys are doing exactly what they need to do for their teams to be successful.
Well, last night, Devin Booker did a lot, and he did it with the help of Chris Paul. The two combined for 64 points. That's the highest total that they've combined for as teammates this season. So who knows? Maybe we're getting a little preview of what we can expect in the Western Conference Finals. Who thought we'd be saying that, right?
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.